All right, everybody, welcome to the Fort of Alive with Courage podcast. I am Seth, and I'm here with James, my brother James. Thanks so much for being here with me this morning.
Yeah, stoked to be here.
I think what I love about James is he and I have been on a journey probably for the last 2 or 3 years, really diving into the heart of a man, entrepreneurialism, community around entrepreneurialism and fighting for your heart. And then really too, just figuring out man, how do you co-create with God? How do you step out into the wilds of the unknowns in entrepreneurialism and business with God? And it's been, honestly, James is one of those guys where it's this is one of the guys I want in the trenches with me. If I'm going to battle, I want James. He knows how to fight for his heart. He knows how to keep a level head. He knows how to go create things. He knows how to take risk. And he's such just a treasure of a friend in that way. And so I wanted to get James in here for us just to have a really that conversation around life over the last couple of years. And I thought we'd start just, if we're gonna really dive into how we co-create with God in this entrepreneurial space, we got to go back to your history and go back into your 20s and just kind of get a sense for how far back this goes for you, because it seems like it runs deep. And we'd just love to hear just kind of how this started for you.
Yeah. And before I get into that, as a mutual, I just so jump into the trenches with you, and just so thankful for just being here and on the Ford podcast. It's just so much fun to see this coming to life and God breathing it to life. Yeah. So appreciate you too. And just the journey we've been on. So the question was just kind of going back to
for if we're going to start talking about adventuring with God in the entrepreneurial business world, it seems like you have roots that go back pretty far into that space.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up with a desire for entrepreneurship. I mean, I just always enjoyed it. I didn't have any crazy successful stories as a kid, but I would just do little things. And I couldn't tell you where the entrepreneurial spirit was rooted in me for the first time. There was no aha moment, but I would just do little things to make money when I was growing up, and really just had fun, not necessarily just to make money. That was always a fun byproduct result of it, but it was more being creative and making deals and what can I do here. A quick story was during when the Spider-Man movie came out when I was younger, and I think it was high school. They were raffling off these life-size Spider-Man figurines at Blockbuster Video, and it was still around, which ages me. But so anyway, long story short, I said to the manager, I said, "Hey, whoever wins that thing, give him my number," because I wanted to resell it. So my dad and I went in, and my dad's like, "Hey, I'll give you $100. We'll go on at 50-50." And so I think I bought it from the guy for $200. We turned around and sold it on eBay the very next day to a collector for $600. Yeah, people had torn at the little nets on little spider web on the outfit, and we glued them and fixed it up. My dad and I went to my Suburban and dropped it off to the guy and made $400 cash, and we split it 50-50. Yeah, so stuff like that it was just fun. I just enjoyed it. Part of me. So anyway, in high school, I started my clothing line called Sanctity. So that's my company. To this day, that's what my company is called. Very different looking. It's just taken many turns, which that's a heck of a long journey. But yeah, ran that through college as a clothing line. What kid in high school didn't either start a surf brand or brand? Sure. Brand
Southern California. Yeah.
That was one of the two. That was a surf brand line, but it was all my friends stopped doing it. I'm the one that kept going. And that endurance was there, and I just kept pushing. So yeah, out of college, I just started following business, and that led into the screen print company, because that's I would do shirts for the dorm rooms. Yeah. Put out flyers, did mailboxes.
Wow.
And then
print them yourself, in a printing facility.
Yeah, I learned how to do that from the ground up too. I always enjoyed the pioneering. I've always have. And I really, the side of me that enjoys entrepreneurship is the side that you've been through the challenge of making it through the grind and then figuring out the other end, coming out, knowing the process, because you understand it better than your customer.
Totally.
That's what they need. They need that direction. And so that's been just my experience through entrepreneurship. And it's still going today. I'm just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So good. I know, for me, with the college model shifting these days, with college being so expensive and everything, one of the things I've dreamed of is like, man, I'd love to just go throw 10 grand at one of my kids and just be like, go start a business and then
Yeah.
watch it fail and then let's try it again. And like basically use your 20s to just go be creative and go create things in that entrepreneurial space. I mean, just speak to that for a second. Just like when you're in your 20s and it seems like you have all the safety nets of like parents are there in case it doesn't work. You always move back in with mom and dad. I mean, but like it seems like it's just a very creative space where you can go take risk and go experiment with the concepts and ideas that you're passionate about and see what sticks. Did you find that in your 20s?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was blessed to have that comfort zone. I mean, I did move back on my parents for the sake of trying to get my business off the ground. I mean, you took up 1/3 of their garage with my print equipment until I could afford to get into a warehouse and buy, this big automated equipment.
Yeah.
So that was the next step. But yeah, I mean, I worked hard and pulled all-nighters. And sometimes one time I pulled 2 all-nighters in a row with a total of, I think it was like 2 hours of sleep.
Wow.
And I couldn't deliver an order by the end of it because I was as good as drunk because I was so deprived of sleep. And so I had to have my friend drive me to go drop off an order. But yeah, it is. It's like, and I'm starting one with my son. I'm encouraging him to start a little Hawaii shaved ice business. Yeah. We bought the machine for $200. But I told him, I said, hey, your commitment needs to be that we do this at least enough events that we at least pay off the machine.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you how to figure out your cost and your margin and what we should sell for. You need to agree to go over this with me and learn how to do it and do the amount of events, whether it's 2 to 5 or whatever, until this thing's paid off. And then if you want to stop, you can stop. And then we can either sell or just keep a machine for fun. And so,
well, that's right.
So yeah, but the idea is, inviting God into it is not shaming him in that, but encouraging him to make mistakes. Last weekend we took a stab at creating a homemade pineapple syrup from one pineapple and then sugar. Those were the only 2 ingredients. So I said, he wanted to start selling. I said, Holmes, we've got to figure out recipes now. We've got a trial and error. We've got till spring or summer. So let's just figure it out. And like, I think that's trying to invite God into it is like, God's got so much grace for us, and God is just like, just go figure it out, and if you fail, like, great, learn what doesn't work. And then when you're doing what's working, it's because you know what doesn't work.
It's so cool. It's like this image of like a really grace-filled backyard where they can just go build and go create and go see what works and what doesn't. And, if the syrup burns and it's like, oh, no worries, start again. Yeah. What a cool experience to be going through with your son. I love that. So, I mean, I feel like that just gives us a nice foundation of just your brain, how it works, like how you love to go create, how you're bringing on people into this entrepreneurial journey. It seems like that journey is really like getting new life, like over the years. And I know there's been some hard, low moments in that journey too. There's no way we can gloss over that. And this is a cool segue just to talk about the groups that you created as a way of walking with that faith-driven, faith-centered entrepreneur. Like, I'd love to hear about behind these groups and kind of where they are currently.
Yeah. I mean, it started with the first group in 2018. I had been invited to another Christian CEO group and came as a guest, realizing, man, I need this. I wanted a little more depth and challenging in the heart and life with God through it, walking with God through it. Because I got a little bit of an impression that was kind of left at the surface. So, reached out to Stuart Ramsey, a buddy of mine and ours in the group, and told him I kind of had on my heart to like get our own group going because he was going to invite to the same one as a guest at a time.
So these are like executive peer groups, founders, CEO, C-suite level leaders coming together, banding together.
Yeah, all business owners, CEOs, entrepreneurs. Once a month. And the biggest thing I realized is being a business owner and entrepreneur is very lonely.
Yeah.
You're talking to people all day. You're discussing deals. You're nonstop, like busy. Mm-hmm. But the lonely part of it is that you can't relate with people, because they're not in your position. Yeah. So there's so much behind the scenes in your head that you're trying to process and figure out, ups and downs, valleys and peaks. And, you're just trying to figure this out. And so I joke around and say, this is like mobs for business owners.
Yeah.
You know, mothers of preschoolers where moms can come together and just
Together. Yeah.
I can't handle this. This is so hard. I'm getting my faces in the mud.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. It's like mobs for business owners. It's where we come together and we get to talk about our lonely valleys.
Yeah.
I'm like, gosh, how do we do this? And then the bonus I've really come to enjoy and love is just gaining a love for these guys on a brotherly level as sons of Christ, the Father who loves us, and just really growing a heart for those guys. You know, I've gained so much freedom from God in this entrepreneurial journey. I've heard so much from God and like him directing me and the freedoms that come with that. And just so badly wanting that freedom for these guys, you know?
Too. I love that. Yeah. So the first group is how old? You say 6 or 7 years?
Started the first group in 2018, grew that to 10 guys, and then decided to cap it there because anything about that, you start to lose the intimacy and the time to share on an individual basis. So then group 2 came out of that because a handful of guys were saying, hey, can we join in?
Yeah.
And so that's where I felt like God was like, get another group going. And group 2 came in, and I think there's like 7 or 8 there now, about 8. And so
cool. I love that. I'd love to hear too, like when you talk about this vision for freedom, like in these groups, I think it's like born out of a vision for freedom in your own journey of entrepreneurialism. And I know for me being an entrepreneur for the last 7 years as well, one of the things that I've noticed is like you have a vision for what you want to go create. And then of course, God starts giving you opportunities and starts resourcing you with the possibility of this vision happening at some level.
Yeah.
And I know in my experience, the perfect ideal client like comes up and you're like, dude, this is what I made the whole thing for. And it's so like, it feels so big. Families hinging on this thing, you know, and like, it feels like weighty, like, and then a lot of time, all this pressure just starts flooding into the system as an entrepreneur that you're like, I've got to land this deal. This has to work. I'm looking at our bank account like 3 months from now and it does not look good. Like we have to land this thing, right?
the pressure starts building.
Yeah, totally. And then like, am I skilled enough to do this? What if I say the wrong thing? I have to perform. All this weight just starts getting loaded into the system. And what I've noticed in my journey is like, that is a recipe to take me out. Like, take me out of my glory. Take me out of the vision that I've been given for this business, right? Take me out of my family, like where I'm staring at a wall at dinner and I just can't even be with them because I'm so absorbed in the pressure and all the anxiety that comes with some of these seminal moments in entrepreneurship. And so I would guess that's one of the reasons like why these groups are so important is to be able to walk with each other through those battlefields and through those dark valleys.
100%.
Yeah. And I guess I would love to hear like, and maybe you and I can just riff on this a bit because I know we've talked about it a lot, but like that whole scenario that I've set up, where have you started to notice in your own personal journey where you've been able to experience freedom in this journey, right? Like the entrepreneur journey is such a good playground for growth, to be co-creating with God. I mean, it's like you're out on the frontier lands, creating things you never created before. It's a very wild and woolly place. And then to have freedom and lightness in that journey, that sounds too good to be true. I'm curious, like, what has helped you in your journey get to some of these moments? And I know it's not all freedom and lightness, you know, but there's these pockets, right, that like emerge. And then sometimes the pockets start growing and getting a little bigger and more expansive. And so just what have you noticed in how you experience that freedom and lightness?
Gosh, and it's so hard to put it all in a nutshell. You know, I look back at my history and one of my best friends, I've told him this. I'm like, I feel like I've just been really seasoned, you know, seasoned like an old guy is seasoned. He's gone through life. He's gone through the challenges and he's come out realizing from his mistakes what he does and doesn't want to do. And I wouldn't choose to go back through that. I wouldn't touch it with a 100-foot pole, but I'm grateful for that history, you know, because it's shaped me in so many ways. From the 20s to like where I'm at now, I'm grateful that I've been seasoned. And though I wouldn't go back to it because it's been such a challenge, it's inviting God into that story. And I think you guys talked about last podcast, I believe you talked about the living the larger story. And so it's like, you can choose to live the small story. And I've gone through this challenge. I've had to work through it. And I've gone into this story is of regret, of just shame, of why did I do this? Why did I go into this? Because my story is I got into the production. I realized I did not want to do that.
Yeah.
And I just hit this valley in this desert area where I just was so unhappy and dead.
Don't want to own a shop, don't want to have payroll, don't want to, you did that for 10 years.
Yeah, a lot of negatives came out of it that I didn't have passion for. And so I found myself stuck in this production company. And there's a lot of successful companies doing it. But for me, like I did not want to be in that. And so I hit just a kind of a mental low, like a very kind of a depressed state. I had to work through it. And so inviting God now into that story and saying, okay, God, maybe I chose to go into that, but you worked through it. You worked through it. You worked it as a tool. There's a verse that I wrote down, Matthew 13:23, which is the seed that fell on good soil represents those who truly hear and understand God's word and produce a harvest of 30, 60, or even 100 times as much as had been planted. And the interesting thing is I heard another side to this verse, another thought on it, which was, God says plant in good soil, but the thought you never really usually hear about it is in order to have good soil that produces a good crop, that soil has to have been worked on.
Yeah.
It has to have had good fertilizer mixed in. It has to have been weeded. It has to have been dug up, maybe weed killer put on there and nutrients worked in. It never didn't get there until it was rough soil and had been broken down and worked on. So I think that's the cool story that I have is, okay, God, like you've taken me through this valley. I've invited you into my story and just learn. It's still a journey for me, but learning to invite God into it and hear from God, like, okay, God, what are you doing here? And so that's where the time comes in when you have a challenge is the importance of asking God, like, hey, God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? And I'm very kind to myself, and I've learned to be very kind to myself because God is very kind to us. I think a lot historically, an approach that God was judging me or God was upset with me or disappointed, where God's got so much grace and love, we can't even grasp it. Human minds can't grasp it, and that's how much there is.
Yeah.
And so when I wake up in the morning, like I'm not looking at my email, I'm not looking at anything else. I'm just laying there and saying, God, thanks so much for loving me. Thank you. Like, thank you for loving me. And get up, just pray and spend time with God, like listening, journaling, reading devotion, listening to worship or a prayer on the John Aldridge Pause app.
Now, is that, because when I hear you're kind of giving us a description of how you cultivate and maintain good soil, right? Like in order for beautiful things to grow out of it. And I think maybe what you're saying is like that light and free space out on the frontiers and the unknowns of life.
Yeah.
Like for those to be light and free, like the only way that actually happens is by having that good soil, that cultivated good soil so that things can grow out there on the fringes, right? The title of this podcast is Alive with Courage. And so it's like, well, how do you create life that like results in courage to go press on as an entrepreneur and go start that new concept or create that new product or step out and risk for something, right? Which is so part of the DNA of a man's heart. Like a man wants to be out on adventure, wants to be out creating new things and risking and fighting some of these hard battles. But if that soil isn't healthy, the very little can grow from it. Like no life. It's very hard to be courageous if there's no life in the system, you know?
Yeah.
So has that always been a thing for you, or has it just been the last couple of years where that life or that good soil has taken on new life for you?
No, I mean, I hit my valley, my lowest desert place was about 3.5 years ago. I decided to make the move to sell my production company, cut that up.
Yeah, big move.
Yeah, big move, very good move, but since then, man, God has gone to so much work in my heart. I mean, it's been life-changing. It's been so cool to like experience healing, and such a big process to also invite God, like, okay, God, I'm going to invite you into my business. I'm no longer going to like keep you separate from this and try to do it on my own will. It's God is faithful and true. And so it's just taken me a lot of seasoning to come around to the point where I can say, okay, God, in return, I want to be faithful and true to you.
Yeah.
No matter what happens. And so
So I want to double click into that for a second. 2.5 years ago, this was so funny. I connected with you at Taco Mesita in Tustin, right? And I'm trying to grow my business. So I'm like, hey, like I'll go have lunch with James and like network with him. And, and so we sit down and we're chatting or whatever. And then you're like, hey, I have a buddy Linus who's invited me to this retreat. And, it turns out I actually knew Linus from like back in college. There's not too many Linuses in the world. So I was like, oh, that Linus.
Other than not a Charlie Brown.
Yeah. But it was so cool to go, oh, this is what Linus is up to. Okay. And then you tell me about this retreat. It's about a man's heart and of course I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm at lunch with one guy. Like I could be at a retreat with 70 guys. That's a great networking event.
Go for this.
So I'm like, yeah, I'll go on that. Right.
Yeah.
And so I end up going on that retreat with you. And just like God does, he invites you in on whatever grounds need to be used, that costs, kind of get you in. So the whole thing flips for me from like a networking event to like a total invasive surgery, essentially, on my heart. And I think, when you're talking about like good soil and what makes good soil, I think some of the things that really took hold for me, and I'll let you share too, but a couple things that really took hold for me is one, learning how to hear the voice of God, specifically about what he thinks of you.
Yeah.
Right. And how he sees you, sees your heart. That like, I had 20 years of like my faith being discipled in the Christian faith, never was taught how to hear the voice of God. And I don't mean like an audible voice. I just mean that impression. So like when you ask the question, Lord, would you show me a picture, an image, or a word that describes how much you love me? Like, and just to get to hear him say like what he says to you, it's so intimate. It's so perfect for just the right thing you need to hear.
Totally.
Right. In my mind, I'm like, that is like non-negotiable. It's so hard to go out in life and be a risky entrepreneur if you yourself internally are attacking yourself, right? Like with false beliefs, false ways of seeing yourself. And so many of us have this really messed up perspective of who God is. Like he's this like sitting back with his arms crossed and trying to, waiting for you to perform and do your quiet times to get, him to notice you and give you a little like token of love. Right. Yeah, and it's just this roller coaster of like trying to perform for God. And that's totally false. It's just not how he sees you. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, my heart was rocked just getting to be able to spend 3 or 4 days just hearing how God speaks, how he sees me, and like what his love for me is, and radically transformed like how I see myself. Right, just as a base. If we're talking about soil, like that was like one of the main starting points for soil. What did like? We've been 3 times to this thing, right? So, what were some of the things that you were taking from that retreat?
Gosh, yeah, I think the one that crosses my mind a lot is I can invite God into my story, and it doesn't stop at just today. And I think, it was the same for me. I never knew you could hear from God, and not this like, James, this is what you do. It was in my thoughts, and God bringing up even ideas like creative imagination, God, spiritual imagination. God brings thoughts, and if you give him the space, you can hear from him.
Yeah, this is where vision comes from. Creative ideas.
Yeah, God created me as an entrepreneur. So it's like, lean into that. And God even saying like, have fun with that. Go for it. Like, create. And so for me, it was inviting God into your story and allowing him to reveal to you the truths behind the lies. And it is kind of the realization, it's like, man, you don't have to hold these lies as truths.
Yeah.
You can bring them to God and say, okay, God, what is going on here? What is the truth? And we've got the authority in Christ to trample on snakes and scorpions and tell Satan, like, scram, get out of here.
Yeah.
Like, you have no authority in my life anymore to tell me these lies, because God's truths are here. And so that was the biggest thing for me, is hearing from God, embodying into my story, and even that chapter in my life where I got so bogged down with the screen printing, I think there were some deep lies and doubts, fears, anxieties that got rooted in me. And so it's been
that you ended up running off of.
yeah. And I was living life with them as truths to my life. These lies that had become these truths, you know, reality that were false. Yeah, this veil that Satan had put over me and said, this is the false thing that you believe is the truth.
Yeah.
And God doesn't care.
That was the lie.
That was the lie. Yeah. God doesn't care. And so it's been years since then of like, it seems like God keeps like peeling an onion layer back.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, this is a new thing I realized like I'm living with.
Yeah.
But with the onion layer peeled back, there's such a freedom. And so it's like bringing back into the groups of guys. It's like, I want to come to them and say, I dare you, like invite God in, because the adventure that comes with it is so cool. And it'll knock you off your chairs. So just go for it. Like allow God in to your story and into your business that he's created in you. And it's such a gift. So the more you invite him in, I'm guilty of this too, that some guys have it so figured out and planned out in their business. And to me, God is like,
what do you need God for?
Yeah, they don't need God because they've got it so figured out, you know, and I'm guilty. I want to have that too. I want to have my like retirement figured out now. But God is sometimes saying, take the step to the next stepping stone, and it's not there, but I'm going to pop it up by the time your foot lands.
Wow.
You have to take the step and you have to go for it. So just jump, you know? And so that's what I've heard recently is God just saying jump.
Yeah.
You know, with the adventure and trying to start with the kids flip-flopper in. Anyways, I hope kind of answers
yeah. And I want to get to that jump here in a minute. But I just want to highlight like what you're saying, because a lot of people will hear stories like this and they'll be like, okay, cool, but how do you practically work on your heart with God? How do you practically co-create with him? And and when you're talking about God, it's never helpful to be like, here's the 4-step process of how to like connect with God. Yeah, unfortunately, it's a little more wild and subjective than that. But I think there is a tool that you and I have been really on working this tool for the last couple of years. It's a tool we learned at this retreat. By the way, the retreat is called Adventures of the Heart. It's actually not a retreat. They call it an expedition. And really, it's this idea of this expedition into your heart and into the heart of a man. And they have them on the East Coast and they also have them on the West Coast. And so one of the tools we learned there was breaking agreements. And this is a tool we use a lot in the fortive coaching. So the way that the tool works is a lot of times it starts with a feeling you might be having. So if you say you're having the feeling of anxiety, and for me, I wake up in the morning, got a little bit of anxiety running. If I go, okay, what's under the hood of anxiety for me right now? And it's typically something to the effect of like, it's all up to me. Right? Like that's the belief that I'm believing. And I'm kind of I'm alone today. I got to go figure it out. And it's kind of the entrepreneur's worst nightmare. Like back to that alone.
Yeah. Entering your day like that. Starting out in the negative on a low point.
Yep. And then your day starts, you probably don't really want to take care of your body or yourself. So you just default into the day. So you're not working out or anything. You might get into a little scuffle with your wife because you're internally having conflict, and it's hard to go love people well, when you're internally in conflict.
Right.
And then you sit down at the desk and it's just like this malaise of like all the to-do list and like no energy and desire to go create anything. Yeah. Because you're afraid, you're alone. You don't know if anything is going to work or not. There's no courage in the system. Every opportunity that's like out there saying, hey, come like pick up the phone, call me. You're not even interested in it, right?
Yeah.
Because
the wind is out of the sails.
Yeah, exactly. And so what you were alluding to this earlier, these are belief systems that we've started to believe that then start taking shape as operating systems or identities, right? And so what happens is in a technical way, in the spiritual realm, Satan baits us with these faulty belief systems like, hey, James, you're kind of alone in this, right? Or, hey, Seth, you don't really have what it takes, right?
Yeah.
And these little seeds get dropped in that are these lies that our heart grabs onto, right? Because the heart's hungry to believe something.
Totally.
And so it's like, well, what are we going to believe here? So it drops in, and then we end up letting it roll around our hearts. And then at worst, it starts developing into an identity. I'm the alone one. Right?
Yeah.
You start talking about those veils that come over.
Yeah.
And the veils is like, it basically like blinds you from seeing things that are true, seeing life as abundant, seeing God as with you. I mean, it's like all the truth just, you can't even see it anymore because all you're focusing on is the lies, right? And so this idea of agreements is like, we are co-signing and agreeing with the lies that Satan is tempting us with, and we don't even know it. And then we start seeing it show up in like fights with our wife, or procrastination at work, or not doing the things you said you would do to move your business forward. I mean, not taking care of your body. I mean, like all this fallout. So basically what happens is like death starts taking hold of the vision, of the relationships, of the business.
Yeah, totally. I mean, those agreements that you're talking about, I mean, they're so dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, because like you said, so many times you don't even realize you're into these lies that you've come to believe. And so that's where Satan, the enemy, wants to come in and strategically plant those things and let you go into your business, which is a vocation God has blessed you with to create, to be an entrepreneur, to be a business owner or executive. He wants to derail you there. And then he wants you to take that home to your wife and have this upset thing behind your back that you might not even know is there. Dump it onto your wife, dump it onto your kids, not put up your business cape and put on your dad cape, or a cape for your family or your wife, the husband cape.
There's no heroics at all.
Yeah. And Satan wants those tentacles of that agreement to just spread it through every part of your life and just ruin the entire thing.
Yeah.
You know? And so having that, and I'd be curious for you too, like what's been the best thing for you approaching these agreements? But for me, it's been just the knowledge that I've got the tools from God to recognize this agreement and call it out. And you pray against it and tell it like you have no dominion over my life.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of business freedom has come from is, I'm not anywhere close to where I would desire for my business success to be. Mm-hmm. But one of the things you've asked me in coaching is where you're your worst enemy, like where are you coming in, getting in your own way?
Yeah.
What lies are you believing? And so it's like that question along with giving that to God is so important for me. Yeah. It's the freedom that comes from that and the freedom to go after it.
Yeah. So I think what we're really doing is we're really starting to whittle down, like, how do you access freedom and lightness, being out on the frontier lands of your business, of your marriage, of your relationships, right? Like, and so I know for me, my quiet time in the morning has really shifted to a legal pad, and on the left-hand side, writing a list of all the beliefs and lies that I'm believing.
So good.
I'm not enough. I'm afraid. I don't have what it takes. I'm alone. You know, like all these, that's the left side. Mm-hmm. And then I just go through this breaking agreements process. Lord, forgive me for believing that I'm the alone one. Mm-hmm. Like as if you created me alone. Like he's like, I'm going to knit you together in your mother's womb as the alone one, you know, like, so I just ask for forgiveness. Like, sorry for believing this. This isn't true. Right.
Yeah.
And then through the power that we have through Jesus, we have this spiritual authority to renounce, which means to create space from, like, I'm going to take this and decouple myself from this lie. So I'm going to separate, I'm going to renounce it. And then I'm going to reject it. Mm-hmm. Like in the power of Jesus, like his life, death, resurrection, ascension, I'm going to reject that belief. Then I say, I'm going to take this belief and I send it to you, Jesus, for judgment. And up until that point, I have been on the judgment seat, judging myself as the alone one, right?
Yeah, totally.
And so I'm my own worst enemy, right? And so I'm on the judgment seat as the judge saying, Seth, you're the alone one. And I'm living in that cesspool cycle of lie, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly where Satan wants to get us. It's just off in the corner, alone, condemning ourselves, living in shame and guilt. And he's like, sweet, like
it's a huge state.
You're offline. So there's actually an exchange that needs to happen where I'm condemning myself as, say, the alone one. And that even becomes an identity. And Jamie Winship, who wrote the book Living Fearless, has this really beautiful process. It's called the identity exchange, where you basically get yourself off the judgment seat and put Jesus on that judgment seat and say, Jesus, would you judge this? Like, so the prayer is, Lord, I'm calling myself the alone one. What do you call me? and like learning to listen what he says. And he says, like, I call you my beloved.
Mm.
I call you my chosen one. I call you the man for the job. Like when he just starts speaking in these like perfect words that you need to hear as a man, you need to hear as an entrepreneur, you need to hear as a dad and a husband. And he starts building you back into the truth. And on my legal pad, I'm just like scribbling all the things that he's saying. Yeah. And he's just like gushing like all these beautiful ways he sees me, what he calls me, how he knows me as, what he made me for.
Yeah.
And it totally just buries the lie. And I leave so much lighter and freer living in my true identity, in the truth of what he says about me. And guess what? Courage just floods back into the system to go after things that I don't even know how to do as an entrepreneur. And I'm willing to go try again, willing to go fail again, willing to get back out there. And that's where probably some of the most incredible inventions and innovation comes in entrepreneurialism, is when you are alive with courage and you're able to go create at your highest level.
Mind.
Yeah.
That's you. And I know you've talked about renouncing these things, writing down the lies, and that you've just felt like a weight has been lifted off of you before.
Oh my gosh, it's incredible. Like I would say 85-90% of my anxiety is gone. I'm now like just in maintenance mode. Like when anxiety comes back on, it's that 10 or 15% of just like, okay, I know how to fight. I know what the tools are. I'm gonna go back in and just like figure out where this anxiety is coming from, and let Jesus like speak over some of these lies. So I wanted to hear from you. You told me a story last week around just an example in your life of agreements that were kind of in the mix that you have been maybe struggling with for a while, and then watching God just meet you there.
Yes.
And then inviting you to jump back out into this entrepreneurial venture and seeing fruit come from it. So I'd love to hear you to share that story.
Yeah. One of the brands I've started, my kids' flip-flop brand called Pigeon Toes, is I've developed this for 3 years. And I think leading up to it, part of me has taken the time because I was kind of afraid to get it out there.
Yeah.
You know, with the belief that if I don't get out there, I can't get rejection. And so my mind, my dream is like still alive. Like I can make this thing as big as I want in my head.
Yeah.
So
without having to do anything.
Yeah. And so you've been coaching me through that over the last year or so. Like, what's going on there? What are the lies against you? And coming to the realization, and I've got some fear behind going after the sales. You asked me like for some of the goals of, you want to go after this, how many stores do you want to pull on? Yeah. And my tendency was to be in a safe place and kind of come up with another direction or not go for it. So those prompting questions I was able to bring to God. And one morning it just hit me. I think I was listening to a podcast or I was reading Moving Mountains by John Ulrich, which is an awesome prayer book. One of the chapters, the word content came upon me. And I was confused that with content. And so I looked up what's content, and it was shame and lies and fear being put upon you. And it just snapped. I was able to name a word that was getting in the way of me going out and going for it and doing sales.
Wow. What was that word doing to you?
It was mainly bringing fear and shame to me. Fear of going out and avoiding the failure that I was thinking I was going to get, the no's and the rejections. And that comes from history of like my story, where it was planted in my past, which I won't have to go into that because of the time, but I invited God into that. And God was saying, hey, this is rooted in you. And so I brought that to God. I said, God, what's going on here?
Why is shame, guilt, contempt?
Yeah, why is shame, guilt, contempt, fear?
Where did I learn that? Yeah.
Yeah, where did I learn that? To pick it up in the chapter with the screen printing production that I so learned to hate. And so like I started believing like a bunch of lies, like you can't do this. You're not going to get there. You're never going to reach your goals. Yeah. You're never going to get there, And so I brought that to God. I said, God, this is what's popping up. Just that word, contempt, like, why is that sticking out to me? And really like realizing, one, that it was a lie. And then two, bringing it to God and saying, just telling Satan, like, I reject any foul spirits bringing this lie of contempt over me, stopping me from going for it and going out and doing sales. And so God healed me of that. And it was like your experience of just having that weight taken off. There was a freedom that came in. And this is the part I say, like, I dare you, go for it. like see what God does, because I let God into that story. And I describe it like, if you're out of shape and you start working out again,
Yeah.
it's going to be painful.
Yeah.
But you're going to push through it. And like maybe the pain's still going to be there. It's going to be hard, but it's going to get easier.
Yeah.
And so the last couple of weeks, I've just had this new energy to just go for it. I've been making calls like crazy, and I've had some great stuff come up and some great successes and some confirmation that what I've put together in my product is really good. And there's been a lot of no's and no answers. But there's almost this like protective shield over me now of God saying, no, this is not your problem anymore. This is not your lie. Now go out there. The challenge is still going to be there, and some of the pain, like, you're protected.
That's such a cool example of like moving into that valley of the agreement or the lies, and then let God like come in and heal that fracture of your heart that's like leaving that. And he's like, and then it's sent out into the world with new life and new courage to go press through the gap, rather than avoid it or procrastinate or whatever. Like, so it's like, no, I'm gonna push through this. I'm gonna step into this sales world, right? And then to be met with all this resource that's just waiting for years to go get the call from you. And they're like, this is amazing. This pigeon toe sandal is like exactly what I've been trying to create, or can we partner together? So it's just a cool story of how much our visions and our business ideas and these things matter to God, and how much he wants to see them come into the world and be blessed. And then like the desires in your heart for a reason. You spent the last 3 years building this sandal company for a reason. Like it wasn't just for nothing. Like,
go bear the fruit, which is what you've pushed me to lean into. Go bear the fruit, or go pick the fruit now.
Yeah, the fruit's there. The harvest is there, right?
Yeah, and the freedom, that song is freedom in the name of Jesus. I think of that song. I grew up singing that. I went to Christian school from kindergarten to 8th grade.
Yeah.
Always in youth group singing, there's freedom in the name of Jesus. But there's a difference between singing it and experiencing it.
Totally. And I think that exchange moment of bringing it to God, it takes it out of the head and allows it to sink into your heart as an experience, because you're now experiencing moving through the lies and into truth. And then you're just like, I can't deny that. I can't deny what's going on in my heart right now. Like my heart's bursting with desire to go pick up the phone when 15 minutes ago, all I wanted to do was avoid. So it's like, I can't deny that experience. And so then it's like, cool, go exercise your faith, pick up the phone. Go take some risk. And
it's okay. It's all right. You might eat mud, but you've got this.
But grace is in the system. My grace is sufficient for you, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's such a great example of like, even that song, like there's freedom in Jesus, like it's in your head. It's a track, but like these things have to come into our heart in order to then be able to be utilized and experienced out in the world,
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing I was going to mention too, highlight too, is like, as entrepreneurs, when we talk about this idea of being out on the frontier lands of your life, and you're creating out in the areas you've never been before, right? And I think if you don't have something like that in your life that you're risking for, fighting for, adventuring with God on, life tends to get somewhat boring and pretty controlled and pretty known. And so like, no matter what stage of business you're in, like if you're not exploring kind of that frontier, that outside space, like I think there's a huge part of your heart as a man that's probably shrunk and playing small in a lot of ways, and you can feel it. But you're probably not having that conversation. You're probably not admitting that or being telling others about it, like at lunch with your buddies. It's you kind of put the pose on and talk about sports and try to keep the happy face. But inside, you're like, dude, my heart's small. There's not a lot of life in there. And so I just love your heart. I love how you're risking. I love how you're adventuring and fighting. And then guess what? When you're out on those frontier lands, you need God more than you ever have. And so it creates that intimacy too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, what a cool picture of living. That sounds like such a rad life to be out on the edges, creating.
Adventure. God wants to adventure.
Totally.
What he's wired us as men is to adventure.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like going to hunt a deer. I mean, that's great, but adventure and like inviting God into that exploration.
Totally.
Taking risk.
So good. Yeah. So just thanks so much for being here and being willing to share your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, as a fellow journeyman in this, I want to have you back just to talk about some of the deeper dives of all the seeds that we laid here. But yeah, just really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
cool.